We're getting tired and we're just asking for help.
Staff at long-term care homes pleading for support as another outbreak is reported. And
it's important to know that enforcement is a process. It's not immediate.
tens of thousands of complaints of people breaking COVID-19 rules, but only a fraction of them result in tickets as bylaw officers struggle to keep up. Plus,
for all of us here, we have family and friends back home. So when we watch the images of police brutality, it really hurts us.
demonstrators here speak out over India's new agriculture laws that threaten farmers there.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Good evening, I'm Marivelle Tarouk. Ontario reporting yet another record high in COVID-19 case numbers today. A total of 1,859 new cases were reported, exceeding the previous daily record set on November 27th. Toronto leading the case count with 504. Peel region not far behind at 463 cases, and in York region, 198 cases. Hospitalizations continue to climb, putting a strain on our healthcare system. 709 people have been hospitalized due to the virus. 202 of those are being treated in intensive care units, with 116 on ventilators. 20 more people have died of the virus. Long-term care facilities have been particularly hard hit. As Lorenda Redicop reports, some homes are now pleading for more help.
A show of support for staff dealing with so much. 5 residents have died at this home. 33 have tested positive. So have 25 staff members.
And we're just asking for help to go up there and help these girls that are working 16 hours a day.
Aside from dealing with the loss of our residents, we're also dealing with so many staff members that are co-workers, people who are putting their lives on hold to help here, and they're now infected, and some of them pretty severe.
Their union organized this rally. The local hospital is helping out, but they say that's only on the lower 2 floors.
If somebody passes on 3rd, nobody can come down to get the gurney. So I'll go get the gurney, go up and get the deceased, and then bring them down. And we're strong but mighty, but it is getting very tiring and we are breaking sometimes.
Long-term care advocates are frustrated.
Unfortunately, what we've seen in the second wave is these very concentrated, exploding outbreaks.
Just yesterday, a provincial long-term care commission called on the government to require every home to have 1 staff person on site full-time in charge of resident quality of care. It also wants unannounced annual inspections stopped 2 years ago brought back. At this home, the site of Ontario's largest outbreak, more than 100 residents have tested positive, along with 32 staff. A hospital has taken charge of the facility for the next 3 months.
Something went very wrong at this home, and I think we would be very wise to conduct investigations at this point to be able to pinpoint exactly where the mistakes were made so this does not keep happening, because this has been a pattern in the second wave, and it is leading to many deaths that should not be happening.
At the home in Hamilton, workers are just pleading for extra staff.
They come in and you're defeated. We need people to come in that are going to be willing and able to go up and help on those floors and alleviate some of the stress.
Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Record-breaking numbers coming out of Quebec as well today, with the province reporting 2,031 new cases and 48 more deaths. Although that figure appears to include numbers from earlier in the week, still the province's health minister says cases over the past day have increased at a substantial rate. He is calling on Quebecers to remain vigilant. A long-term care home in Brampton has one of the worst outbreaks in Ontario. 85 new cases were reported at Hawthorne Woods Care Community, including 64 residents and 21 staff. Provincial data shows fewer than 5 deaths have been reported at the home. Currently, there are 107 active COVID-19 outbreaks in long-term care homes across the province, and of the 20 deaths reported today in Ontario, 13 were in long-term care homes. Toronto continues to grapple with high numbers as the city prepares to enter week 3 of a second lockdown. At the same time, bylaw officers are moving away from education and ramping up enforcement in the form of tickets. Angelina King has more on that and why enforcement isn't always simple.
From not physical distancing and large gatherings to using closed amenities and businesses flouting the rules, more than 37,000 complaints have been made about people not following COVID-19 protocols since March, but only 1,600 tickets have been handed out.
It's important to know that enforcement is a process. It's not immediate. It can be perceived by the public as simple. It is anything but simple, and in order to lay charges, you have to do it in such a way that you gather the evidence and that those charges are going to stick.
But he says enforcement is getting stricter and moving away from education.
It's too late in the game to be uneducated. The tickets are more frequent now than they were in the early days as we were trying to educate people.
Take gatherings, for example. In October, there were more than 400 complaints, the most any month, but only 6 tickets were handed out. In the first half of November, 14 tickets were issued. In the last half, that grew to 50. But when it comes to not distancing in public parks or squares, 124 tickets have been handed out since March, the majority in April, and 0 in the last 2 months. There are 200 bylaw officers in Toronto. At the beginning of the pandemic, about 90% of them were deployed to do COVID-19 enforcement. That number has since been reduced to about 60%.
It becomes a real challenge for those officers.
This city councillor says there aren't enough bylaw officers in Toronto, an issue highlighted by the pandemic.
I think the community is getting a little annoyed and concerned that when there is a bylaw enforcement, when there's a law written, it's not being enforced.
The question is what motivates people.
This psychiatrist says agency is better than heavy enforcement.
If we feel we're choosing, that is huge. So that means education. I think it's education around the danger. I think it's education around your own self-interest.
Whether it's learning even more about how COVID affects you and others or the risk of getting fined, officials hope something gets through so people follow the rules and help bring numbers down. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Fire crews battled smoke and heavy flames near Downsview Park earlier today. The 3-alarm fire broke out in a townhouse complex under construction.
A number of hoses operating from the ground, a number of aerial master streams, as you can see. One of the challenges right now for our crews is the heavy wind. So we refer to that as a wind-driven fire. So the crews have done a fantastic job here this morning of preventing further spread to the north and the east.
Toronto Fire Chief Matthew Pegg says it started at around 10 a.m. at a development near Frederick Tisdale Drive and Downsview Park Boulevard, north of Highway 401. When crews arrived, heavy flames and smoke were billowing from the building. Firefighters were eventually able to contain the fire. In the end, a number of townhouses under construction were damaged. Luckily, though, there were no injuries and no nearby houses needed to be evacuated. Pegg says the city's fire investigations team is now looking into the cause. To Brampton now, where police have closed an investigation after a man allegedly damaged religious property. It happened at a gurdwara near Ebenezer Road and Nexus Avenue on Wednesday. Police say a man visited the building and was provided a Gurdwara Sahib, a Sikh religious book. Investigators believe he then caused damage to that book. They were able to identify the man, and though it was initially investigated as a hate crime, police now say it was not motivated by hate. The new Union Station bus terminal opened its doors to its first riders this morning.
On a typical weekday, we will be shipping around 184 buses through this facility. I've extended an open invitation to interline bus operators such as Coach Canada and Greyhound. And anyone that wants to use our facility would be welcome to come and do so. This is about connecting the region better.
The 2-story bus station operates in a zone system, similar to an airport. An announcement lets you know when it's time to board the bus. The terminal connects to the GO trains, Scotiabank Arena, and the PATH system. The old Union bus station saw more than 100 million customers since it opened in 2003. This new station can accommodate double that. A few blocks away, the St. Lawrence Farmers Market was allowed to resume full operations today after being forced outdoors last weekend. The latest lockdown regulations prevent markets from operating normally, but St. Lawrence Market vendors and operators urged the province to consider them an essential business under the new rules, saying they sell food just like grocery stores and supermarkets. And they succeeded. On Thursday, the city announced the market provides essential food retail to residents. The city also says the market is working closely with Toronto Public Health to operate safely indoors. Let's check in with Christina now for our weather forecast. It's a good thing that farmers market was moved indoors because it seems like it's getting colder out there, Christina.
You're right, Maribel. It is getting colder, but we're going to trade it in for a little bit of sunshine. How's that?
That works. Sun works.
Okay, so our Saturday overnight, -2 degrees. Our seasonal low should be about -3, or our high about 3 degrees. So we're pretty much there. Feels like -8 degrees, -8 rather without the degrees. Now let's take a look at this almanac, December the 5th. Can you believe that the warmest it's ever been December the 5th? 2001, we reached just over 18 degrees. The coldest it's been is -15. We can relate a little bit more to this. I can't imagine it feeling like 18 degrees. So we certainly felt that wet snow for our Friday. That has ceased for the Greater Toronto Area for our Saturday. Where we're still seeing a little bit of activity is right here between Kincardine and Sarnia. This area, which is part of the snow belt region, we are going to be dealing with some snow squalls there and some flurries. So if you happen to be around Highway 4, Highway 402, you most definitely want to be cognizant of that. But here is what we're going to be dealing with for the week ahead. Dry conditions persisting for the Greater Toronto Area. So we're going to swap in a little bit of that activity for some sunshine, and you're going to need your sunglasses. The next day where we're going to see the most amount of sunlight is going to be Tuesday, where we're going to experience 6 hours of that. Now let's get into these temperatures. Our overnight at -6 degrees, and then for our Sunday, everybody, Toronto right at the freezing mark. And I'm going to have more details for you coming up in the long range forecast.
Okay, we'll check back in a few. Thanks, Christina.
Okay, thanks.
It's not every day that you're asked to leave food on your doorstep, but today Toronto residents were asked to do exactly that. Volunteers from Toronto Miracle spent the day going door to door collecting non-perishable food items. The grassroots initiative says it was all done in an effort to help families experiencing food insecurity during COVID-19. We spoke to volunteers about this unique initiative.
Toronto Miracle, it is a grassroots initiative. It's completely run by volunteers, 100%. And we noticed that there is a huge issue about food insecurity here in Toronto. We don't need to talk much about it. We know the statistics. And we just wanted to do something about it, right? Like, we are in the middle of a pandemic, but when people are hungry, we cannot wait for that, right? So we were very concerned in regards to COVID-19. However, again, when it's about food insecurity, we needed to act. We needed to do something. Toronto Miracle has brought together more than 1,000 volunteers across the 140 different neighborhoods of Toronto.
People are looking for ways to help, but because we're so limited in how we can be around each other, this was a great opportunity to be able to help. Every item is getting counted, and at the end of the day, across 140 different areas in Toronto, we'll do a grand total, and that's what will be celebrated. This is one of our hubs. Friends of ours own Bomb Fitness and offered up their space.
I think this is a really great program, the way that it was pulled together. We're closed. This felt like the easiest, best way to use our space while we can, to allow somebody else in there to participate in the food drive.
This is the conversation happening in our households across the region and also the country. And we're very concerned.
Protests overseas in India hitting close to home for many in the GTA. More on their show of support coming up. As India's farmers vow to intensify protests there, people here are mobilizing to support them. Demonstrators are protesting against new agriculture laws that farmers worry will lead the central government to stop buying grain at minimum guaranteed prices. Talia Ricci has more on the local show of solidarity.
This is the conversation happening in our households across the region and also the country. And we're very concerned.
Watching the protests in India unfold is hitting close to home for many in the GTA.
For all of us here, we have family and friends back home. So when we watch the images of police brutality, when we watch the images and the videos from on the ground of water cannons and tear gases and charges from the police with sticks, it really hurts us.
Thousands of farmers are protesting reforms that they say could devastate crop prices and reduce their earnings. The government insists the reforms will benefit them, but the farmers say they were never consulted.
We want to ensure our people are safe and that the right to peaceful protest is protected.
A sentiment echoed by Canadian politicians this week.
Canada will always stand up for the right for peaceful protest and for human rights around the world.
All people have the right to peacefully protest, as this is a fundamental right in any democracy.
In Ontario, protests took place today in Ottawa and Toronto, including convoys waving signs of support that said "No farmers, no food."
These bills basically challenge the livelihood of our farmers. Our farmers, they feed our nation. Our farmers are the backbone of our nation. This issue hit quite close to home.
Right now what's being asked of us to do here is just amplify the voices of the farmers in India.
Khalsa Aid's team on the ground in India is helping by creating shelter spaces and fogging mosquitoes.
We've distributed fire extinguishers to every tractor owner, every person that's cooking there. Another problem that we saw, and we are delivering women's sanitary kits to all the women at the protest. So it's making it a little bit easier for them to be at the protest.
As tensions rise in India, many here hope the global attention doesn't fade. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
COVID-19 became the leading cause of death in the United States this week, according to researchers. Almost 12,000 people died in the last 7 days. Experts predict the next few weeks could be the darkest in American medical history. The country has not yet seen the ripple effect from Thanksgiving gatherings, and upcoming Christmas holidays could make matters much worse. Friday alone saw more than 224,000 new cases. Since the start of the pandemic, more than 279,000 people have died. One estimate suggests that number could reach 500,000 by March. The Vancouver Canucks have fired their well-known anthem singer after reports Mark Donnelly would perform at a rally organized by COVID-19 deniers and anti-mask advocates. The hockey team's owner, Francesco Aquilini, announced on social media that Donnelly was the Canucks' former singer. He ended the post with the hashtag #WearAMask. Donnelly has sung at Canucks games since 2001. Hundreds of dollars in decorations missing. How a sneaky, small, sly rodent is to blame. After the break. It was a vexing holiday mystery for an Ottawa neighborhood. Their outdoor light displays were growing dimmer by the day. The CBC's Stu Mills spoke to the homeowners who discovered the nutty explanation.
Normally, there would be several hundred Christmas lights brightening up this Manor Park backyard fence. For more than 30 years, that had been Michael McCabe's family tradition, then sabotaged.
And noticed about halfway through December that they were no longer lighting.
This year, the McCabes decided to move their festive display closer to the house, but that didn't stop the squirrels.
When they finished on the deck, taking all 150 lights away, they've started to chew on the two here at the front.
McCabe has photographed the red-coated Grinches running off with his Christmas lights clamped in their tiny teeth. A few houses down the street, Bob Porter has watched red squirrels carry away his lights, too.
I just replaced the strings 2 days ago, so heaven forbid now I'm just waiting to see if they chew them again.
The LED bulbs were supposed to save the McCabes money, but so far they're out $500 and they have questions.
We're just trying to figure out what they're doing with the bulbs, because they cut the wires to both sides and take the bulb, and we can't find them anywhere.
Though Porter and McCabe purchased their lights at different stores, both were made by the Chinese company Ting Shen. Some have suggested that the lights may be manufactured with a soy-based plastic irresistible to squirrels. Others say the rodents are squirreling away the bulbs because they're the same size and shape as pine cones. But naturalist and squirrel researcher Dan Brunton says the intelligent creatures are merely practicing their proven strategy of tirelessly testing their surroundings for potential new food sources.
They're applying wild techniques into urbanized, humanized landscapes, and sometimes it can be pretty weird.
As for Michael McCabe, next year they'll be a little less generous with the squirrels.
Well, we'll probably do a similar thing, but keep the lights inside.
Stu Mills, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, just like the weather, Christina, squirrels apparently, you just can't mess with nature sometimes.
Exactly. That explains what's been happening on my front porch, I'm thinking. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Take some great pictures, too, if you can.
Absolutely. Let's see what I can get for you next weekend.
Cool.
Okay, so as I mentioned, we are quiet and we are dry for southern Ontario, but here's a little bit of that activity really between Kincardine and Sarnia. So once again, snow squalls, some flurries. So if you happen to be taking Highway 4, Highway 402, you want to be cognizant of that. So let's get into our Sunday morning. We are going to feel a little bit below seasonal. It'll feel like -11. It will be -5 for the Greater Toronto area. As you can see here, as we head to Guelph, -4 degrees, feeling like -9. So we're trading in a little bit of that activity for cooler conditions, but beautiful sunshine, as I mentioned, and it's only going to get sunnier throughout the week, with Tuesday being our sunniest day. So here's our Sunday, right at the freezing mark. Hamilton right at freezing as well. London at 0 degrees, so you can see beautiful sunshine across the board. And even our overnights, Toronto at -8 degrees, London at -7 degrees. So just a touch below seasonal for our nighttime lows as well. And then for our Monday, Toronto right at 1 degree, London at 1 degree. Beautiful sunshine continuing. For our Tuesday, Toronto right at 1 degree, Hamilton 1 degree. And then as we progress throughout the week, we can see that by the time we get to next weekend, we could see a system brewing, but it is a little bit too early to get into that. So let's take a look at our next 7 days. Toronto right at the freezing mark for our Sunday, Monday 1, Tuesday at 1 as well. Wednesday 4 degrees, a little bit of cloud cover, but Thursday we're going to be at 5 degrees. Once again, a lot of sunshine. And then Friday, here comes some building cloud cover. And then Saturday, here comes that next potential system. And then even as we move north, beautiful sunshine for Barrie across the board. Cloud cover building for Friday. And then for our Saturday, we could see a next system coming in.
Okay, and I'm excited for the squirrels running away with your Christmas light photos.
Okay, I gotcha.
See you next week. Thanks.
See you next week.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. We're going to leave you with a shot of our beautiful Toronto skyline where the CN Tower is lit up in blue for the Toronto Miracle Community Food Drive.